Okay, welcome to the Rutland Town Planning Commission. This is Thursday, April 18th of 2024. We'll begin the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everyone. We have Andy McCain, who is attending but not voting this evening. And here in the town office, we've got just about everyone. We got Jim Hall, an alternate who will be voting, Sherman, regular, Mary Beth and Dana and Jerry, myself as regulars and voting, and Norm, you'll be voting. Okay. First thing on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
I have one possible suggestion. To add to the old business, the ad hoc committee, which was voted on last time, and
Yeah, we can discuss that with the housing survey. But we probably should add Bill's revised subdivision forms to old business, if that's okay with the maker of the motion.
It is.
And the seconder of the motion?
Sure.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? The agenda with that one change? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I think we can go right past public comment and go into the public hearing for 930 US Route 4. You may want to sit in the first row so that microphone can pick you up. Thank you. So this is the public hearing on a final subdivision application by Paul and Paula McNeill. It's being held here on April 18th. The applicant has proposed to subdivide a 2.67 plus or minus acre parcel into two parcels. Parcel A is 1.17 plus or minus acres. Parcel B is 1.5 plus or minus acres. The applicant has requested the following full waiver requests pursuant to the regulations of the town. Part 7, 11, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 23, and 24. The land is located in the town of Rutland off US Route 4 East. It's bound to the north by the lands of Conco.
I think that's supposed to be Crescenco with an R, but I'm not sure.
Crescenco and Thurston Properties LLC. To the west by the land of 930 US Route 4 East, and to the south and east by the land of Moral House LLC. The application has been completed and is here at the town municipal building. And this is the final subdivision hearing for the subdivision. Do you have anything new to add from the last time you were here? Mr. Okay. Any questions of Mr. McNeill? Okay.
Bill, everything turned in according to, yep. All I need to know.
Okay.
Move to approve the request for subdivision as per the subdivision notice.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any questions? Okay, I guess we're ready for the vote. So all those will just, in the agenda, the vote is actually in the old business, but they're connected. Do you have any questions of us? Okay. So here's the vote. All those in favor of this 2-lot subdivision at 930 US Route 4A, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay,
I'm
I just wanna
I'm
note-
abstaining. I'm sorry.
Oh, me too.
Just because I wasn't here for the discussion.
okay,
Same for me. Yeah.
okay, so, so 5, okay, thanks. Okay, it's passed.
Thank you.
It's good.
Instead of 6.
There's 2 abstentions and
It's
there's only
considered
Who
unanimous
else-
because there were 2
I'm sorry,
abstentions and
who
we
else
have a quorum. so-
Sherman and Mary Beth.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't pick up Mary Beth. Thank you.
So we'll need the Mylar, in 90 days.
Okay.
Anything else, Bill, that,
When he brings it in the filing fee, but that's it.
Okay. I get it in.
okay, yeah, I guess that's it.
Done.
Yep,
I
you
appreciate
are.
it. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my daughter's the spelling bee last time.
Okay. So we're down in old business, and so, the housing survey, reviewing that from the Regional Planning Commission. So Norm, and everyone else, the committee, wasn't able to find a time to meet, but I think we can do everything tonight. That,
In terms of the
we,
subcommittee?
the subcommittee, yes.
That's
The
not
ad
the,
hoc subcommittee.
That was the one that we were part of, that you and I and Mary Beth were part of.
Right, right, yeah. So we weren't able to meet. I think we're okay.
I
Thought it was
wasn't
supposed
aware
to be
that
in the
it was
future.
appointed. I
You weren't here, were you?
was here at the last meeting.
Those
yeah.
dates weren't in the future
Oh.
from this
Well,
meeting.
They were in the future, but because we're meeting before it,
Whatever.
we figured we would just talk about it.
Yeah.
during the
Somehow I
meeting.
missed that, if that was in the email.
It was set up and we thought we would be meeting between our regular meetings, but it didn't happen. So, everyone should have a copy of this. It would be great to get back to the select board with something and for us to do something, to make some decisions tonight. I asked Logan at the Regional Planning Commission, the Housing Navigator, Logan, if he had some ideas, and he did. So, we can easily give this to the select board, but I'm thinking that maybe if we do a little interpretation tonight, maybe a summary, and touch on some of the comments that have already been made and any others that are made tonight, that would be plenty for them. So a couple leading questions that Logan posed. How is housing talked about in Rutland Town? What housing ideas have been thought of historically? What housing ideas have been discussed in the past? What ideas, projects, or policies have garnered public support and resistance in the past? So those are some questions we can talk about tonight. Anything else that you notice in the survey that you think should be highlighted?
We don't have a copy of that, do we?
No.
So anyway, Bill could copy that for you. I mean, it's just easier for me if I'm looking at questions visually
Is that
rather
the one we had last week?
No, that's
No.
one I brought in. It's just the email. It gets, yeah.
It's easier for me to wrap my mind around something if I'm looking at the question rather than trying to hold it in my mind and
Okay, well,
think about things.
yeah, if Bill gets a chance. So how is housing talked about in Rutland Town?
I don't know that it is really.
People don't seem to be concerned about it. Is that what you're saying?
I don't hear anything one way or the other. The only thing that I have heard around housing was focused around the short-term rental. That's the only time that I have heard housing be a conversation. And it was those people who felt that short-term rentals were taking away from the housing stock. That's about the only thing that I've heard. Personally, I have a perspective on that, but talking to myself, I don't think counts. So, you know, yeah, I don't know.
Mary Beth?
So I've had a few friends who have tried to find houses, and it took years, and they're trying to find a house in like Rutland Town or Mendon. And then I've heard of people just at different businesses like credit union and the hospital, whose staff can't find housing. I mean, that's more than just Rutland Town, but
But we're probably talking about more than Rutland Town.
right. Yeah.
Because, you know, the economic activity, you know, can impact us all, help us all.
So I have heard from several different people that either live here already and just need, you know, are renting and want to buy a house and can,
Right.
or
Yeah, and I work with some young people. One, I mean, they can't find apartments in the Rutland area. One lives in Fairhaven. One lives in Leicester, and another lives in Brandon. And Logan lives in Burlington by choice, but
mhm.
Working at Brock, I know that there are a lot of people who struggle with regular shelter. But people aren't talking about it. I did hear one story that someone said they would rather be on the street. This was related multiple steps away. I didn't hear it directly, but they'd rather be on the street and under a bridge where they knew they would be safe, rather than going through the rigmarole of trying to get into the system to find housing. I can't confirm or deny that. That's a story that was told to me in my work at Brock. I do know that there are some people that are fiercely struggling to hold on to what little housing they do have. Could be a small apartment. Rents are going up. They're struggling to find the means to continue to pay that because they're on some type of fixed income.
sale prices are going up too, again.
But so we're talking about just maybe a small apartment within a complex. I know that there are vouchers still available to the, what is it, the Rutland Housing Authority or something like that. But I don't have enough experience in that area to make an informed comment. But I know that most of the HUD housing or the subsidized housing at the HUD level, it has a waiting list.
Yeah, and let's remember, we're talking about not only affordable housing, but housing for others too. Starter homes, larger homes for growing families and things like that.
I'm just telling you, I deal with a specific clientele at
Right.
Brock, so I'm only giving you the perspective of what I have become aware of.
Right.
Not that anybody at Brock is really talking about it.
Okay. Welcome, Howard.
Hi, good evening. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I had to run to the drugstore and I got tied up. But I'm here.
So we'll, Jim, I think since he's here now, since he was just running late, you're the second alternate, I believe. So you're welcome to join in the discussion, and I want to turn to you next, actually, but you won't be voting.
I'll slip through it.
So that second question, what housing ideas, can we help you?
Yeah.
What housing ideas have been thought of historically?
May I ask a question before we
Okay.
launch into that? How might this question be helpful to us? Jim has made some comments that
and he made them, at the last meeting, that the survey didn't include any of the history of the town in there, any of that context, right? And also, this could apply to any ideas that have been tried in the past and worked or didn't work.
Okay. That's not how I interpret it.
I think that one of the things we have to do early on in this is to make a determination of the people that are predominantly in a housing problem that don't have housing. Were they displaced, or were they Rutland town residents for a long period of time and were displaced, or what's the story? I'm sure that when you get into analyzing the answers to those questions, you're going to have more than one or two reasons. I've done a lot of thinking about this housing thing, and I really don't know how we're going to get enough people to respond to really get answers that are going to be suitable for going forward with grants and that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to be done. That's my point. I think we have to dig deeper in finding out the reason we're in short supply of housing.
Dig deeper. Yeah, Norm.
Jim rang a bell. One of my concerns is that the response was it's a little over 1% of the population, maybe 2% of the population of Rutland town. It was 87 less, it was about 65 people. And I just don't know if that, you know more about these kind of things than me.
Statistically, that's enough.
Is it
Yeah.
1%, 2%? Okay. I mean, it's a question that's been kind of kicking around in my head too, is whether the sample was strong enough to tell us anything.
Okay.
I guess that's what Jim was saying, basically.
Extrapolating on that, Barbara, my comment would be that you can take whatever data you get, whatever your sampling size is, unless it's really terribly small. But if you take that and you extrapolate, you can at least create questions off of those, like the questions you've come to us. But I think that it would be helpful for us to generate additional questions this evening, which is what was the intent, I think, of my initial suggestion, that we form a group to look at that and generate more questions. So I think our time this evening might be better spent, rather than trying to answer questions, by developing the types of questions that we think would be meaningful.
Okay. Do you have one to start off with?
I can come up with one in the next 3 to 5 minutes, but I don't have one off the top of my head. If I remember correctly, I don't even think it's in the minutes, but what Logan was saying is that we have a population transition, and we have a lot of relatively larger homes owned by single or two people, older couples, and the homes have more capacity than is needed for the few people who live in them. my comment to Logan at that point in time, if my memory serves me correctly, was maybe we're talking about not a specific shortage, but an allocation of resources. And we should look at it from that perspective. Maybe I can come up with a question about that. I know that the state has offered, and I think there's a review process going on currently, grants for homeowners of up to $50,000 to be able to renovate their homes. That money would come from the state with a small contribution from the homeowner to create either adjacent dwellings or a separate dwelling within the home to create more capacity. I think that there's some value to that. Do I know what the question is that I would ask? Not in the 2 minutes that I've been rambling.
I got a question that could go with that is,
There you go.
how could anybody renovate an apartment for 50 grand?
Oh, yeah.
It is just, it's not feasible today. I know I'm not trying to be a jerk here. It's just not feasible. The kitchen cabinets and appliances alone could be 40.
Yeah, I know.
So that's the problem. If the state wants to cough up 100, now you're talking, now you're getting close, but 50 just doesn't do it.
Top of the bucket, yeah.
What was the source of that funding?
I don't know who's doing that. It's the state.
It is the state.
offering that.
And I know that NeighborWorks is involved in
So it's
implementing those grants.
Yeah, it's first, you have to be creating a new space.
Yeah.
It can't
Or
be,
renovating an existing space that would
it was
be
never
autonomous.
used as rental.
That's correct. So for example, if you have, a bi-level home and you've got, a bathroom, say on the lower level, I'm just making it up. Bathroom on the lower level, bedroom on the lower level, living area that you would have to put in some type of kitchenette
Right.
or something to be able to accommodate an autonomous space that could be rented for, an efficiency or a one bedroom or something like that. I can probably come up with that later, Barbara. I've
But
had
it
some
is,
exchanges.
the state I've known a couple of people that have done it. And I
There's a-
worked on one in Woodstock, and the state is being extremely, extremely tenuous on getting that done. So they're offering a great thing, but you can't reel it in and be pains in the ass at the same time. You gotta make it possible for people to do it.
There are a
They're-
number of
they're being
pieces of
extremely
legislation,
difficult.
Jerry, that have come out that are supposed to be designed to help people.
Yeah.
But there are so many hoops,
Red tape.
strings and red tape attached that it is virtually impossible for people to take advantage.
Right.
In fact, I don't,
Yeah.
I'll give it 30 seconds. There's another grant that I'm helping to, well, not a grant. There are other funds that I, as my work at Brock, am trying to help people access. But once again, it's got to do with vehicles. They've even upped the incentive from 3,000 to 5,000, but they haven't loosened any of the
Right.
any of the constraints, which makes it virtually impossible for anybody to access that money. I don't get it. I don't understand what the purpose is.
Just good intentions that just don't seem to produce.
Right. Because legislatively, they're constrained.
What about this concept? Do you think there is enough, there obviously is enough supply out there to do these sorts of things, the reconverting. But is there the will, do you think? And just your conversations with people or just what your gut tells you about how many residents do you think would take advantage of such a program?
I think that well, go ahead.
Jim?
Going back to World War II days, I can remember as a child growing up in the northern part of the state that there were 2 and sometimes 3 families in the larger houses that lived that way, at least during the war and for some time after, because of necessity. There just wasn't the money to with the individual family to support a house because things were so costly. There was rationing of food and everything else that would go into everyday living. That's why we have so many larger houses today that are in such disrepair, because that need long since passed. And the houses got used for things they weren't designed for. And they're in disrepair, and most of them that were utilizing the livability of folks back in the wartime are empty today.
Yeah.
And so that tells that that's a big item.
Mhm.
I think in this area.
Once again, Mike, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dan.
Once again, my comment is really a comment and not a question, even though I made the suggestion to come up with questions. But you asked the question. And I think that what we have today with people focusing on short-term rentals is reflective of a real situation that that property owners are afraid of. So is there the will? I don't know. What I have heard is that sometimes, and I know this because of some of my work now, sometimes it is very difficult to get a long-term renter out if they are not abiding by the appropriate, you're laughing, Jerry, I hope it's in
No, I can give you firsthand knowledge.
example.
I
Okay,
can give you firsthand knowledge if you want it.
I'm not sure because we're on camera.
No,
whether
I'm
that-
just saying, it happened to me personally, so I can
Oh.
give it up. I was in court yesterday to have a tenant move out who had absolutely had to hire an attorney. I lost a year's rent. She's been there 1 year.
No rent.
Vermont Legal Aid kept propping her up. And no reason. She owns a property in Troy, New York. So if you look at those things and how the state supports those people who are staying in those, there is no way in hell I would have another rental property. So those stories are everywhere. And when I tell them to people, a lot of people shake their head. Yeah, they've talked to people that have had that happen. So if someone said to me, I have a perfect place to get $50,000 from the state and put a little apartment in my house, perfect. It's all kind of set up for it. Would I do it? No way. No way would I do it. And that sentiment you're going to find all over the place. So if it's not, if developers aren't going to come in and make a housing an effort to put up maybe a building that is nice and it's managed, and that management keeps a real tight rein on things going on, rents being missed, instead of calling and saying, do I have to pay the rent? We're like, take a month and try to. That's the way we reacted, and look where it got us.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is, I think that VRAP perhaps did us a big disservice by people got used to not paying rent.
Because somebody was paying for them.
They was paying for them for a year and a half, and I think that it just became, I can't do this anymore, and I don't want to do this anymore. There's a lot to it, and so my firsthand knowledge of that, there's no way I'd ever rent again. I wouldn't. So, and I think that sentiment is
Pretty widespread.
Is
Pretty well.
so prevalent that there wouldn't be much interest among developers to put rentals.
I think that if there was a fire sale on a house and a developer could buy it cheap, Paul's a great example. He buys and sells homes. He does that a lot. But he needs to get the right one. And with housing up here, how many of those right ones come about? Unless unfortunately somebody passes and a family's looking to move it. There's a very fine line between affordable houses for developers to buy to make apartments out of, and the houses that are available. And so anyway, I just see it firsthand all the time because of the business I'm in. I think there's interest, but it's got to be affordable, and I think that's where lies the problem.
The other thing, I think it's more about home ownership than it is about rental. because the homeownership, the person who buys the house, I mean, Habitat's done some good work. I know, Norm, I've seen some of those developments in Rutland City. The people who are able to buy, whether they're duplexes or standalone single families, it's a great opportunity for them. They have skin in the game. They have to take care of it.
Agreed.
That makes sense. But when you have rental units, and what I have heard, just as the story, your testimonial speaks to me, that's problematic. And that's problematic because there isn't a clear pathway for the homeowner to be able to ensure their own security, particularly if they rent out of their own home. And I think that becomes problematic because that's lack of accountability for the person occupying the space, and that the state, the city, or whomever doesn't take an active enough role to place the accountability where it needs to be. I'm all for helping the people in need, but some people, they may be in need, they may not be in need, but they know how to game the system, and that's not okay. So, I mean, that's my personal perspective. So that's not really germane to our question here, but those are the things that I have heard are problematic. So it's much easier to do a short-term rental where you know that after a couple of weeks or a month, the person or the group is going to be gone, and you don't have to worry about freeloaders or creating eviction notices because of improper upkeep or sanitation issues that are caused by renters. And that's another big thing that I've seen or heard about in the city, both. It's appalling what some people live in because they've created the situations. So anyway, for what that's worth. Sorry.
A housing discussion is, I mean, we're all over, and I'm the same way, but we're all over the place. I mean, there are people who can't afford housing, don't have jobs, who are homeless.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are people who have nice jobs, who can afford, but can't find anything that they want,
right,
at the price they can afford. And it's not just more houses. It's where do we need the housing? Because it's got to be spread out. You can't just build houses, build apartments for the homeless, because other people need it also. And it's something that just, from my perspective, has got to come from pretty far up in the administration and I don't even mean the state. I mean, there's just, if something's going to be done about housing, someone's got to come up with a plan. And nobody has a plan. There's no plan. We all talk about it. Someone throws a little money off here, and you can get money to make changes. And there's money, and there are funds available also for people to build affordable housing, large buildings where they can do more. But there's no overall plan. And even as we talk about it, and I'm not criticizing, but all we can do is talk about a little problem there, a little bit we can do. If we took every possible conversion of a large unit to more than what it is now in the town, forget even in the area, we wouldn't put a dent into the homeless problem.
But piggybacking on that, the homeless problem is not just a question of housing. The homeless problem is partly a problem of education and understanding systems and being trained to live in community. Because some people who are homeless find their community among those people who are also homeless. And the part of what is happening there is that if you really want to eradicate homelessness, you have to have a tiered approach to services, mental health, management of funds and resources, and allocation of transitional housing, from whether it's temporary housing in a motel, not that I'm saying I favor that, but from there to a common situation for dwelling, to a single efficiency unit for a single person, or a multi unit apartment for a small family, that would then go to a participation in a bigger housing complex. And that each step of the way, there need to be resources allocated for the support of those people as they're going along. More support for people at the lower end, where they don't know how to interact, to access services, to manage a budget, and then gradually release control over to them as they demonstrate greater and greater competency in decision making, and that includes mental health.
Yeah, those are solutions, but the bottom line is there's not enough housing. If you did all that, you still need to provide housing.
Norm.
I'm kind of lost. In part because I don't think we're talking from a very sound base.
Mhm.
I don't think we have information to really answer the questions that Logan put forward. We don't have sufficient information.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where we get it.
Well, I can address that.
I don't think we have at our hands sufficient information, and it's not just the study. But what came to mind in all of this is the scoping study from several years ago, where we talked about building a village center.
Well, it was part of the West Rutland,
Corridor,
Center Rutland.
About building a village center, about, and somehow that seems to me to have to tie into this. And what kind of housing would go there and that kind of thing.
It's always problematic in Rutland Town where a village center would go. I mean, it is, if Center Rutland really is the place or not.
I understand that. All I'm saying is that this is amorphous. I agree with certainly what Dana says. I agree with what Sherman says. But I think somehow we need more focus before we can proceed to answer these questions.
Okay. So I did talk to Logan a little bit about that. He said that there is municipal planning grant money from the state. We use some for the pocket park. There is money available now for housing and market analysis. So that would kind of get to, if the jobs are there, if the draw is there, the people draw is there.
So we study whether or not there's jobs available.
And what there is for housing, what the need for housing would be. We could combine those two. So we could go for one of those. Rutland City is now doing just a housing assessment. So that's coming up, and it'd be good to blend, to see what's in there and see if there's any crossover with Rutland Town there. There is an existing county housing settlement, but that's for 27 towns and is less applicable than the other two. So we could go to the select board and say, let's go for a municipal planning grant and get an assessment done and get that information that you're looking for.
I think this is too wide of an issue to settle it in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there may well never be a real 100% answer.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the situation that the state of Vermont thrust upon the area with housing problem. And some of the fallout from that is very evident today still.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you bounce that off of what regularly would be if that didn't happen, the police chief told me that prior to that, even in the coldest days of the winter, the numbers of homeless people
It's very small.
living under bridges or wherever, you could count on one hand.
Yeah.
Now, it would take several hands.
Mhm.
That's right.
I agree with you. I personally, my wife and I, one night, spent the night until 4 o'clock in the morning, supporting people who were out looking to see what homeless people were on the street, in the city. This is all Rutland, the city of Rutland, and they found one person. This was before COVID.
Yeah, I remember.
So
Yeah.
the rest of my point is that I think we have to get beyond that situation that was thrust upon us to find out where the real world sits.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
Mary Beth. Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking about what housing solutions have been discussed in the past. And do you guys remember that proposed development kind of by the hospital and I guess more by the mall,
Mhm.
off of Middle Road?
Yep. By John Deere.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think there was like generally support for something like that, where it's like, I mean, it's like an apartment complex basically, but it could house a lot of people and it's like managed and nice and new. And there's a couple different types of apartments. And
Yeah, there was good public support for that. People were
Yeah.
excited about
That
that.
didn't fail because of a lack of support.
Right. It
It's
failed,
true.
I think, because the landowner decided not to sell it, right? Or yeah, right. So, but if we could find somewhere else that's suitable like that and do like one big project, I mean, even like people don't have to, even if it's just kind of like people go there for a couple years, like while they're starting a family,
Right.
and then
Transition.
can move out, whatever their situation is, or they're traveling nurses, or while they're looking for a house,
Traveling doctors too now.
like our house. I mean, we were lucky to buy our house 8 years ago before the prices went way up, but this was supposed to be our starter house. It's like a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 900 square feet. So for 2 kids and 2 parents, it's pretty, and 2 dogs, it's pretty tight. But we're kind of like, well, I guess we're gonna be here forever, maybe.
As I sit here,
Mhm.
listen, I think we need to start from a different base. We need to find out what that base is. And I think, please feel free to disagree with me. I think we need to know what the demand for housing in Rutland Town is that is not being met.
And that's what an assessment would do.
And so far, I haven't felt from the survey and other materials and Logan, et cetera, that we're not even approaching that. And the reason I say it is this, do we not have enough supply of single family homes? Do we not have, is there enough need to consider something on the level of Hickory Street that the Rutland Housing Authority built, which is essentially low income housing, but I think there's some market rentals there too. If my information, I spent a year down there helping to build a house for Habitat, and if that's what we need, is the community ready for it? Ready for that kind of inner city kind of development in the
town.
in a community that still feels that it's rural.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
You know,
That's,
because there are ways to do that almost easier than doing other things. Not that it doesn't have its red tape and hoops to jump through, but
what, you know,
and
so,
is there a property to support it available?
okay, yeah, that's all part of an assessment.
And until we get there, until we get that kind of information and other information that I don't think the discussion is we can go anywhere.
Okay, yep. We heard you.
I'm sorry.
We heard you. Mary Beth, you wanted to just,
Yeah, just for the first point that Norman, so this was a couple years ago after COVID, the town of, or the Rutland Town School, I think the principals had a list of like people that would call the school asking about housing, like they wanted to live in town. So I think they had a list of people that were looking that they were trying to help. So maybe they still have a list, or maybe that was years ago and they don't, but I don't know. But I know that they were getting calls from people.
right. I think some businesses may have lists like that too.
Like the hospital, I think has, yeah.
Right. Dana,
So this is, piggybacking on both what Norman has said and Mary Beth added, as well as what Logan was raising when we had the discussion last week in terms of, availability. What would be helpful for me, and I'll state it that way, because that would help me inform my contributions, is an inventory, a spreadsheet of all of the housing types and numbers, number by type in Rutland Town. We probably have access to this somehow, somewhere. And after we identify each type of housing, single family, duplex, how many we have, we would identify also what is or could be in the near future on the market, what the likely price would be, or what the appraisal is of that property, or what its assessed value is. And then it would be helpful for me to know how many people are inquiring. We could do this in conjunction with realtors. How many people are inquiring about each type of housing? We could survey our realtor partners and find out how many questions are there and whether families, what families are looking for. With respect to revolving housing stock, I will just talk about my neighborhood for just a minute. We have had, and this is, on the one hand, this is sad, but on the other hand, it's a sign of, growing opportunity. In the last year to 18 months, we have had 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe 4 neighbors in a relatively short area of development pass away. And those homes have turned over, and young families have moved in. And I think that that's a great sign, because those homes, which had 1 or maybe 2 people in them, and they were fairly big, consider a colonial, with at least 4, if not 5 bedrooms, now being occupied by 5 or 6 family members, 2 parents and 3 or 4 children. Anyway, the point is that in order to be able to fully understand what the profile is in our town, we need to know what we have for stock, how much that is going for, and what the demand is that realtors have found in terms of houses, and what the realtors tell us about those obstacles. Then we could make a more informed.
I don't see us doing all that work.
No, I don't see us doing all of that work. But that's if we're asking the questions, that's what I would need based on what Norman was saying and what Mary Beth was saying.
Right.
That would help me as a planning commission.
If we
member
did an
understand.
assessment, yeah, we.
We would do that. Those are the
Right.
things that I would want in that assessment. I guess that's
Right.
the short way of saying it.
Basically, what you're saying is we need to know what the supply is and we need to know what the demand
That's
is.
exactly right.
Yeah.
But I've done it in a way that clearly delineates for myself
Oh, sure.
what I would be looking for
Oh.
in that.
Chairman,
Yeah, I was gonna try to get back to the original question here is what message do we get from the housing survey that we want to pass on to the
Yeah.
board?
that's one of the
And,
questions.
and we're talking about solutions and situations but one of the message, and I was looking through this, just one of the messages is that a significant percentage of, Rutland town residents don't think that building new housing is very important. That's what this seems to say.
Which one in particular? are
It's
you-
on question 2, and
Yep, that's what I'm looking at right now.
Like-
Oh, one is like red is not important, and then dark green is
so
very
I did
important.
it the other way. Then they think that it is important.
Mhm. Mhm.
I was confused by 4 being missing, that's all.
Oh.
Right, so between the 4 and 5, which are the two highest of importance,
Yeah,
you have 60% of the population
Yeah.
saying that
it is
it is
important.
important. Yeah,
You'd think it would be higher, but
it's still 60%
But still
is more than a
60%.
majority. So
That's something.
well, does anyone want to make, we ready to enter? Yes.
Well, no,
Sorry.
and as part of that message, what does new housing mean? Does it mean new one-family houses or
Right.
apartments, or it sort of doesn't tell us here?
Oh, well, so on question number 4, it's like, what housing types do you support in Rutland Town? And it looks like, from that green bar,
Yeah.
that, detached single family home, duplex, and townhouse are the most preferred.
So Mary Beth, if I may comment,
Yep.
one of the problems that I had with this survey is that it was heavily subjective, meaning that it was just people's opinion about what they liked or what they thought. And for me, I'm a data guy. I like to see what the facts are rather than what someone's opinion is, even though I have no problem offering my own opinion.
Mhm.
But that's why I was saying, if we're talking about a planning grant for gathering information on an audit or an assessment, I would want those specific things addressed. Because although this is good, it tells you what people are thinking and what they're feeling and philosophically how they're located.
Mhm.
I would like to know what the tangible info is. What's our current situation? How much of a shortage do we think we have? How much of a shortage do we have based on what Norman was saying in terms of supply and demand? And what realtors have for tangible data about
Yeah.
requests for
Okay.
particular homes.
Okay. So does anyone want to make a motion that we suggest? What's so funny about?
I'll make a motion, Barbara. I'll make a motion that the planning commission recommend to the select board that we take advantage of the opportunity to pursue a housing planning grant. And that the planning commission would take point on developing the questions and criteria by which that planning grant would be implemented, with a focus on assessing our current stock and the relative objective need based on Realtor data.
Are you basically saying that we want to get permission to apply for funding for an assessment, as Barbara termed it?
We don't have any authority to pursue these on our own. So if we think that a planning grant is good, my understanding is somebody on this body has to make a motion that would either be seconded and supported or not, because the select board is the one that would have to
No,
pursue the
I-
grant.
I-
We do
I
that.
wasn't suggesting it, anything other than the select board, but I was looking toward the terminology. Barbara talked about an assessment grant earlier on, and what I was asking you, is that basically what you're,
It is a planning grant, like Dana said. What would be done would be an assessment.
oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think, if we go through the municipal planning grant, I think, they entertain housing and/or housing and market analysis
Great.
assessments. So we probably want to throw the market in as well.
I would be more than amenable to including the word marketing in my motion.
Mary Beth?
And that would be once we got the grant, we wouldn't do the actual work, right? It would be the regional planning commission that would do
Either the
it.
regional planning commission or we hire someone.
Okay,
That we would pay for through the grant.
right.
Exactly.
Mm-mm.
So do we want to tie that back to the survey at all? As a result of the survey, I'm just asking, as a result of the survey, we think this is the next thing, or do we just want to?
After considering the survey that was presented to us, that's my motion. So if you'd like to
Okay.
make a friendly amendment that we do an introductory element to my
Well,
motion.
I just wanted to know whether it was standalone or.
No, it's based on the discussion we're having tonight, and that discussion wouldn't have happened if we didn't have this in front of us. So I'm more than amenable to having that be added.
Is everybody clear on the motion?
Would you like me to state it again?
Yes.
After thoughtful consideration by the planning commission, I would like to make a motion, having examined the housing survey for the last two meetings. I would like to make a motion that we pursue a municipal planning grant that would focus on an assessment of our current housing stock and look at it through a marketing lens to determine a gap between the supply and demand. And that recommendation should go to the select board for their consideration.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion on the motion?
I'll second that.
All right, ready for the vote? All those in favor of the motion that Bill's gonna have, he'll get it.
Right.
He'll get it on paper. All those in favor.
I'll
of the
help you
motion,
with the bill if you want me to.
please say aye if you're in favor.
I
Aye. Opposed? Okay, it passed. Jerry, do you want to?
Sure. I think I'm not a big fan of taking all of our taxpayer dollars and continuing to do studies that lead nowhere. That's just an opinion. We've thrown a lot of opinions out there, and me especially, but that's another one of mine.
You're doing fine.
Okay, that's valid. Okay,
Only being politically correct, Nor.
It only lasts for 5 minutes for any of us.
so we've got also an old business tonight. We'll move along from housing. The update on S213 and the river corridors. I don't have much of an update. It did pass the Senate. I think I mentioned that before. It's in House committee deliberations right now, so we'll just have to wait on that.
So I testified on it.
You did
last week.
in the House?
Mhm.
Okay, well,
This is my first time at the State House. It's pretty cool.
how was the reception and
Good.
what's going to happen?
Well, so that was pretty much at the beginning of the process. And so they asked me to testify in the wetland portion. And it was on behalf of Ducks Unlimited, so through my work. And it was focused on the wetland restoration piece.
Okay, which is another part. Yeah, it's not just river
Right.
corridors.
Right. It has to do with flood protection in general. And yeah, they didn't have that much to say, but I think it was kind of early on with the house process. But,
All right, exciting. Okay, well, you can be our S213 expert going forward. Let's move now to the revised subdivision forms then.
The, excuse me, Barbara, I'm gonna take my opinions and go back to work. I gotta go to work.
Oh, boy.
I'm gonna leave, but Jim is available to,
Yes,
right? If
Yep.
there's any other things, I
Jim?
apologize, but I've gotta go.
Yep, thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.
you're back in voting mode.
Is there-
Thanks, Jerry.
is this something we're supposed to be looking at?
I think, well, it was emailed out to you for everyone just to take a look at.
I missed an email.
There were extra copies, I think, here.
Go and leave them on the desk there.
Barbara has them all?
Yeah, I got them all.
There you go.
There might be a couple small typos.
There are two sets there, Dana. There's one.
So, yeah, Bill, why
Eight
don't,
pages or piece of paper? Sound right?
Sure, why not?
I've got, Norm,
Yeah, eight, yeah.
Eight pieces of paper.
Sherman, you're all set?
No, I have it, thank you.
So, Bill, why don't we, turn it over to you on what has changed?
Spread it out. So if you remember if you're looking at what we've used now, the forms, the application form, the applicant uses and fills out was based explicitly on the original forms that were used many, many years ago. And I took those and just made them so we could actually see them online easier. So never did any overhaul on them. But as time goes on, we find ourselves asking questions of the applicant consistently, and it's usually something that could be addressed in the application form. So I took.
So we wouldn't have to answer, we wouldn't have to ask the questions at the meeting. It would come with these answers already.
That would be
Great.
That'd be part of the goal. Yes. So
It'd be nice.
there's a 2-page, which is a verification sheet, which is something we started using a while ago, but I've expanded it to give us, to reflect, first of all, the changes on the application, but to give the appropriate kind of information. So, and I also, so I expanded the instructions for the person applying. There's more than there used to be, but it gives us the information that we're looking for. And I tried to get specific. So, rather than having a form for minor and then a form for major, if you look, like form 1 is just the applicant's information, and then form 2 is the only other thing. There's an additional section if they have a major subdivision, but it doesn't require them to say, well, I got to fill out all 3, or so it makes it a little bit easier. I also put in like some of the requirements that we want. 6 hard copies of a preliminary sketch plan or survey preferred, because the application right now, a sketch plan, which can be a hand drawing, is acceptable. We don't usually get those
Where are the criteria listed?
in the instructions.
Okay, that's,
It's-
yep, page 3 of what I have. Yep,
Is
okay.
that form 2?
Yeah, so the first 2 pages that I gave her was those are like our verification.
Packet.
Yeah, I think like the first 2 pages, I think were the verification.
Yep.
That's
First
like
of it.
internal,
Yep.
so we can use those. So I put in here, like, a preliminary sketch plan or survey, which is preferred. A digital copy. We've never asked for digital copy before, but that would make it easier to send out to everybody so they can see it. a cover letter to include a description of the changes, including a detail of the parcels being created and their individual sizes. Nowhere have we ever asked for that before, and it always comes up. And that was kind of highlighted by the Dutiel one, where it became very ambiguous quickly what was actually being asked about. So, I expanded the instructions to make them more detailed, so that way it reduces the number of questions that we would have to ask when they get here. And then for number 2 is all the questions, but I put them in a different, just a visual format. Before, they were very tight, and they were all on one page, and it was very hard to read. So I made them bigger, easier to read, and then at the end put a list for the applicant to put down what requirement they want a waiver for and why, so that we come to the meeting with an understanding of why they want a waiver for it, but it puts it on them to do that, and it's there ahead of time so we can all see it.
Right, that's Form 1 that everyone would be filling out.
Normally, yes, that's the old Form 1, and then the old Form 2, and then the old Form 3 was a for major subdivisions, but this, I just added it at the end as part of that for the additional requirement. So
I like the
Wait,
definitions.
where are your additional requirements?
on that page you're holding, it says at the top right there, this section
Oh,
for major
these
subdivisions.
additional requirements. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yep. I just saw the numbers being
Yep.
sequenced
So,
after 25.
1 through 25,
Yep.
and so on the first page of the instructions is 1 through 25 is for minor, and then shall include 1 through 30 for major.
So one comment, Bill, if I may.
Yeah.
You have the reasons for the waiver request under these additional requirements. It seems to imply that that's the only reason that you have to put in those additional reasons for the request for
Okay.
waiver. So what I would do is I would put that same box on the second page under 25.
I thought about that, so I maybe I can put in the instructions about that too, but it didn't fit because I used tables like to do it, and it wasn't. I ran out of room for the lines, so I can put it the formatting certainly, and see if I can get them over there.
So the
As
other thing
well.
that you could do is make it clear that this
For the
request for
whole-
waivers for the whole
Yeah.
document, whether it's 1 to 25 or the additional ones. And then it will be clear. At least for a small mind like mine.
No, that makes sense. I'll see if I can whether I add it there or somewhere else to be like this is for requirements 1 through 30.
Yes.
Requested waiver, yes, and something like that. Yeah,
Right. Absolutely.
we can do that.
Yep.
And then back to like Formula 1, the cover page, just updated it to expand, like add an email address, because that's never been there before. Just that.
The other thing you might do, Bill, is under 25, see the request for waiver section on the next page or something like that as well, so that they would know that there's something else to complete after 25.
Okay.
That way it would refer them to that so that there's no confusion with.
So actually, yeah. So requested waivers, variances, and the reasons therefore included in the section at the end of
The following page or whatever. it is.
in the section at the end of this application.
At the end of this application. Perfect. Yep, that covers it.
Under the instructions to apply for and file.
Yeah.
Have we had a problem with people trying to file? Either
Yes, we
the
did.
flats?
Well, absolutely, we
Okay,
did. That was why that's landed there, is because there were some subdivision Mylars found that never came through here. We did some that were basically like retroactive. Yeah, so absolutely,
So-
we did.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, that's pretty bold there on the instruction page there.
That's the old.
I wanted it to be clear.
It should be this is the new one, isn't it?
No, that's the old one.
That's the old one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the new one is,
I did,
one through-
yeah.
1 through 12.
so that warning or whatever you want to call it. is not
I'd
on
included
the-
in that because I wasn't sure I wanted to put it, but I had not included that as a statement on there. So I'm going to include it. I might include it at the bottom of the application. But yeah, I that box is not there saying like, yeah, you can't file it until it's approved. So
Yeah. So you'll find a place for it.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, they're getting easier and easier.
And then the verification form, I don't think most saw that until like the end, but you know, I took another look at this, and because there were some times when we talking about approving it, and there was I don't know, it's a debate, but there was some question on what part required action and what part didn't. So if you'll notice that on here, as you go down through this, I put like in brackets like action needed, where I believe that's where there's a couple sections where it is where you have to take a vote on it. In some places you did, some places you didn't, but so make sure everybody agreed with that was where you did. So as whoever is in charge of the approval process knows at that decision point, there needs to be a vote.
Okay.
And then I did the parcel sizes. So I did 12 or 16 parcels because I figured we weren't probably going to do any more than that. So that's why on like the verification, I put,
Right.
what's the current size, and then we can write in how many we're creating, as we go along. So,
So Bill, can I make another suggestion? Can you just bold those bracketed items that says action needed?
Yeah.
Because that's to us. That's the planning.
yeah, the
commission.
verification is an internal thing.
Yeah, I think it's great. I like the improvement. It's just that
Yeah.
flags it for us, and we can catch it at a real
Yeah.
brief glance.
Yeah. Nice.
And then Bill, you fill out the subdivision is approved, denied, or whatever based on.
That's
Barbara.
this
Over
this
here.
this is the only thing I really fill out on here would be the number, whatever number is assigned to the next one. But the intent was that the person running the approval process is filling in all the blanks because they're the ones making sure everything is. I can say yes, but
This is based on our vote at the.
Yes.
at the meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Will this form be required for it to be filed?
the verification. So there's also a letter which gets filled out and sent to the person saying it's approved. But copies of all that stuff just goes in the envelope. So that way that's just there. So that way down the road, somebody's like, oh, well, did you check this? And we're like, yeah, we did. We said we had it. So the form's not in the envelope. We said, yeah, we had it. So it was there at some point. So
But this gets filed in whatever
I finally got it.
application. Yeah.
Yeah.
For each application.
Yes.
So I don't think we need a motion. Just
No,
need to
I just like
thank
to thank
Bill
Bill.
for.
Did you say
Yeah,
you
let's
say
do
you
it.
found some typos? Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I just saw one typo.
Okay.
Under the instructions.
Yep.
You see number 3 down there on the first page?
Yep.
At the bottom. Just above it, there's A and C. I think that should just be C probably.
Oh no, it actually should be C and D.
Oh, C and D. Okay.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
It formatted weird. So it was fighting me.
I never find typos.
Yeah.
Thanks, Norm. I mean, Sherman.
I had one comment on, under additional requirements, number 30. I guess the second sentence to me I've read it, doesn't make sense. Doesn't seem to go anywhere.
Oh, got cut off. It may have been cut off. I'll look at it.
Okay, it just seemed incomplete.
Yeah, it looks like B bled into number 30.
Yeah, it may have been cut off. Yeah, take a look.
Okay.
30 doesn't begin with before a subdivision proposal can be approved.
Yeah, but there's a line.
So that whole
Right.
thing just didn't make sense.
It's more of an
it's
alignment.
Oh.
thing.
Yeah.
It's somehow.
So number 30 starts up here. This is 30.
Well, that's what I thought, but the second sentence just doesn't go anywhere, doesn't finish.
Okay. Because I literally cut and paste these from the other one, so I will check.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Mhm.
Excellent. Okay, we are down to announcements on the agenda. Anyone have any? I've got a couple. This next select board meeting on the 23rd, the Diamond Run Mall owner is going to be present and giving an update on what might be some new developments up there. He has promised updates before. There weren't really updates, but it's always interesting to hear what they're trying to do with the Diamond Run Mall. So that's on the 23rd. And the town is trying to set up a meeting with the state and the Cortina Inn because there are some rumors that the state may be interested in purchasing the Cortina. And that would have some effects on the town. So I don't know details yet on when that meeting's going to be. But I can certainly pass those along when we do find out. The school budget is up for another vote, and that's by ballot only. Everyone but
April 30.
is the due date. That's about all I have. Anyone else? Okay, let's go to the minutes of March 28th.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
March 28th minutes. Any discussion?
I asked Bill, but he said that's the way it appeared on the screen, that Logan spells his name. That looks like it says log on. And if that's the case, then that's okay, but I didn't.
Yeah, it is Logan.
It is Logan. That wasn't what was on the screen
It
apparently.
said ON a couple times.
Okay, on his nameplate thing?
So I took it from here.
Wow.
So it isn't there.
Mhm,
It isn't there. Okay.
mhm.
It is ON?
No, it's AN. Never mind.
Okay, we ready to approve the minutes of March 28th?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay,
I'm abstaining with Mary.
Me too.
yeah, you two abstainers. Okay, anything else?
I got one question.
Yeah.
It relates to something that was in the works back last fall. Solar project up on Thomas's property there. How's that standing?
I haven't checked recently, but I would assume that maybe the archaeological component of it might be slowing it down. They had to get, they wanted to do some clearing of a pre-designated archaeological site. And they had to get us permission to do that. And then it was going to be, they had to do a series of reports back on what they were doing and what they were finding, and then putting that by the state. I'll check and see if there's anything else that's holding things up, but that would be my guess.
Well, I'm no fan of that particular spot. Is the spot may be okay, but the access to it to me is a ticking time bomb.
Yeah,
That's the big problem I have.
and that may be part of the delaying discussions too.
Yeah.
What AOT or V-Trans wants to do.
Access from Route 7 during construction or access generally
The access off of Route 7
for construction or generally?
coming out of there. Stopping going north on Route 7. Slowing down prior to the turn, and then if you got a big truck, you're gonna have to pull out into the other lane in order to make the
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
the curve.
The curb cut's not very wide. The developer has said that there wouldn't be much traffic going in and out once it's, constructed. It'd be minimal. It would be during the construction period that there
Right.
would be
Well,
traffic
that-
and
That's true, but we don't need to add any potential for highway accidents anywhere, let alone there.
right, it gets pretty narrow, the lanes there.
Where are we talking about again?
It's like across from the appliance store in US
Yeah,
7, across from
When McKinley
Mr.
comes-
Twitter's.
Yep.
down to intersect. It's on the right. It does not look like a street. It looks,
The
there's a curb
cornfield.
cut.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
about
farm
all
curb
there
cut.
is. There's no break in the sidewalk. If there is a sidewalk. I don't
It's like
think
wide
there's-
enough for a tractor.
You go along looking for it. You don't see it.
I know what you were talking about now. Yep, I was just struggling to,
It's across from
I got it.
Verizon and the garden store and then a little further down. And it's right across that area.
Horizon,
Well,
no.
yeah, that's the archaeological area down at that
Yeah,
end.
no, I know where we are. It's on the same side as Max Steel.
Yes,
It's just a little beyond that.
north
Yep.
of Max Steel, correct.
I know where we are now. I was just struggling to,
So, good questions, Jim. I'll report back next meeting on where it is in
Okay.
the process. Section 248. Okay, anything else?
motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we're adjourned.